Hi everyone, it's Nicole and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be creating some slimline and mini slimline envelopes with new Pinkfresh Studio Essentials dies. These dies are part of the May 2021 release. We'll also be using a couple of other new products, essential products from the release, as well as lots of previously released stencils, stamps, and dies to make these fun coordinating cards and envelopes. I have both a mini slimline and a regular slimline to share with you, as well as some tips and tricks on putting these together. We're going to start with the mini slimline. There are two dies that come in here in this pack. The main envelope panel, which we're going to work with now, and then the side panel die. You're going to cut that twice, one for each side of the envelope. Now I decided to stencil just the front part of the envelope, but you're going to see in a little bit, I really think putting the whole envelope together and then stenciling might be the way to go, but this was a little trial and error. So you're going to see it this way for the first envelope, the mini slimline, and you're going to see me put together the entire envelope and stencil it for the regular slimline. This is going to fit your standard slimline sized cards, which is so awesome. And you can completely coordinate your envelope to match your card. I'm starting with the envelopes first because I really wanted to showcase them. It's a little backwards from what I normally do, but I know that I have been sharing tons of envelope ideas with y'all. I really love them, and I try to find ways to create something that's not super time consuming, but yet really beautiful. And both of the projects today, not only the envelope, but the card as well, come together in just a little bit of time. So I hope they inspire you to maybe try out creating some of your own custom envelopes as well. We're using the first layering stencil from the You Are My Favorite stencils. These are awesome slimline stencils, one of my very favorites. And I am going to just stencil a portion of the design along the left side of my slimline envelope when it is in the landscape format. So this is the format that I would take writing the address. So that's how I am kind of designing this, if you will. I used, for my first layer of the flowers, we used Peach Fuzz and Coral Reef Pinkfresh Studio inks. I know I mention this every time I do a video with Pinkfresh Studio inks. I absolutely love them. They are amazing inks. The colors are incredible, and the shades of them go together so great. So when you want to create a shaded type of project, they work together so well. Then I did go ahead and go in with the leaves, and I used something a little different. We are inking over a colored cardstock. So sometimes the colors don't appear exactly like they would on white cardstock. I really like that. I like how it looks a little different. I like the richness of a colorful background as opposed to a white background. I've really been having fun trying out different colors of cardstock for backgrounds, which you see here today. I know a lot of times I tend to gravitate maybe towards a yellow because yellow is pretty easy to stencil over, and it still gives you that beautiful warmth. So I wanted to try something different, and so we've got this beautiful peach background, and then for the second card we have a lavender background, and that was really fun as well. So I used aquamarine ink, long story short, sorry guys, kind of got off on my tangent. I used aquamarine ink for the greenery, and it looks so good over the apricot lawn fawn cardstock. For our last layer, this is going to be the detail for the flowers. We are using apricot, that's the dark orange, and passion fruit for the coral. Okay, let's go ahead and assemble our envelope. I always find it best to take a bone folder and really crease all of these score lines really well. So the main panel of the Mini Slimline Essentials envelope has the nice big tab at the top and the little tiny one down at the bottom. For our sides, it's going to have a little score line along the long side, and we want to score this really, really well. So I'm going over it a few times and then I'm going to fold it kind of back out. I actually folded this one the wrong way. I folded it just like the first one, but that's okay. We'll just flip it over and we will score the other way because it needs to go on the other side of that envelope. Then my preferred adhesive for envelopes is a double-sided adhesive. And the reason being is it generally is a much, much stronger bond than a tape runner. And sometimes a tape runner, like the tape runner I generally use, the glue glider, is a little bit too wide for these tabs. I really love a nice, strong double-sided adhesive. So that's what we're going to use down both sides of our envelope here. Plus, I'm going to be able to take my bone folder and really burnish on that adhesive. And you can see I realized that I had gone the wrong way with this second side. So let's just use our bone folder again. Get that crease nice and strong so it stays in the envelope, stays flat and together in the envelope. And then we're going to take our main panel and our side panels and put it together. Let's start with the left side. I'm just going to use some tweezers to remove that so I don't get any of the oils from my fingers and my hands on that adhesive. And then you simply line it up with the side of your front envelope panel. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to burnish that on, and that is going to create a very secure bond. Let's go ahead and do that for the right side as well. And again, we're going to burnish that with our bone folder. Now that we have our envelope together, I can really see that I think it would have looked so much more beautiful if the design would have continued. So while the envelope is still flat, before we assemble it, I'm going to go ahead and retake my inks and ink up these areas. Now, something I forgot to mention when I was first stenciling, I am using these little mini rainbow blending tools from Simon Says Stamp. I have really been enjoying these lately with detailed stencils that maybe I want to change the color. So you'll notice, even though this is a single stencil here, I'm using two different ink colors. And then for the layering one, I'm doing the same. I'm using two different ink colors. You're able to keep your color more in each of those little individual places without overlapping into areas you may not want to with a smaller blending tool. So these are really amazing for that. I didn't have to mask anything off. It was simply straight to stenciling. I can see already that extending this design is going to look so good. So you'll notice I need to fill in like a little bit up here at the top and then down here at the bottom, and then continue the design all the way to this side of the envelope. We're going to just quickly fill in all of these little areas. We've got the layering. Let's go ahead and reline up our greenery and stencil the rest of that. I know the last time I used these stencils, I used pixie spray because they're still, I cleaned them, but I don't know. They're still a little sticky, which actually isn't terrible because they were able to stick to my project. Not really secure, but they did lay nice and flat. So yay, that worked good. Okay, when I remove this stencil, oh my goodness, look how pretty that is. Now the real magic comes when we fold this up together. So let's flip it over and look at that. Isn't that so pretty? I love it. Okay, we're going to put a piece of adhesive, this same double-sided adhesive, along the inside edge of one of the flaps. and then along the bottom edge as well. Now, I would recommend, and I'm going to show you this on the Slimline card, I put another piece of double-sided adhesive. I used a wider piece up at the top flap. Just don't remove it until you put your card in the envelope. Again, we are going to burnish this, so we folded the flap one over another, and then pull up the bottom flap to secure this and burnish that. Look how pretty! I just love how this turned out, and I love those colors on that peach envelope. Let's go ahead and create a coordinating card. This is a new Essentials Mini Slimline Essentials Bundle. Wow, that was a lot of essentials. This is a fantastic mini slimline die set. So I'm using the panel from that. I did die cut it from the Lawn Fawn Apricot cardstock. And it's going to create all kinds of beautiful decorative edges for your mini slimline cards, as well as some nice standard straight edges. So for layering and things like that, there's also some circles with decorative edges to them and all kinds of great designs. Really great for all of your mini slimline needs. I know mini slimline is really kind of coming in hot. I love the size. I like both slimline and mini slimline. The mini slimlines are almost a little bit more, I want to say, kind of quote unquote user friendly. And that's just because they're a smaller size, I think. So it's easier to fill the space, maybe. Slimlines are awesome if you have a huge design, which you're going to see for my second card, or I often like to use them if I have a big scene style card and I need more real estate to fill. I have more things I want to do. They work really great for that. We're just creating an not exactly, I guess, but a very similar design on this panel. Again, we are using the You Are My Favorite stencils. I'm only using a portion of the stencils and I'm turning them. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm using it a little out of the box. You don't have to use it exactly as is if you don't want to. There is a coordinating stamp set, so if you're looking to maybe have some outlines of these images, you could definitely use that. There is a coordinating die for the large floral image. So if you stencil it exactly as is, you could die cut it, or if you stamp it, you can die cut it, or if you stamp and stencil, you can die cut it. I'm doing kind of more of a simple type of card today, so I simply stenciled my panel. This is an Essentials Folk Edge Circles die that I die cut from some Lawn Fawn Speckled Egg cardstock, which has a little bit of speckles in the cardstock. So it's a little bit more interesting than just a flat ivory. We're going to take a sentiment from the Sending Love and Hugs stamp set. We're actually using the Sending Love and Hugs greeting from that stamp set, and we're stamping it with Coral Reef ink first, and then we're inking up just the bottom half of the sentiment with passion fruit and stamping it again. This folk border is really pretty, and here's the whole collection there over on the left side of the screen. We used a solid circle die to die cut some metallic gold cardstock for the next size up to mat it on, and that gives it a little bit more of a elegant type of look to it, I think. We're going to adhere our panel to a mini slimline card base. We'll attach our sentiment right to that metallic gold circle, and then we're going to pop the entire thing up with a little bit of foam adhesive. I'll just take some little foam adhesive squares and put them on the back here and then pop it up. I like for it to have a little dimension. I think it adds a little bit of interest to what is a pretty simple card, but look how beautifully the card now matches that envelope. I am loving this trend of doing or creating envelopes that match the card, and especially something that's beautiful that doesn't take a super long time to create. What's so nice about this is you can create your envelope in the same color of cardstock or pattern paper you use for your card, so it matches perfectly. I'm going to finish my card with some little hint of mint hearts, and that is going to be it for our first card and envelope. Okay, let's move on to the Essentials Slimline envelope. Now this guy is big, and I'm going to tell you right now, he is not going to fit on a standard 8.5 by 11 cardstock piece. A 12 by 12 piece of cardstock or pattern paper, yes, but he is not going to fit on an 8.5 by 11, but I'm going to show you how I made it work on an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. I die cut the bottom half, and then I die cut the top, leaving a little bit of a tail on that top piece. And then I'm just making sure that I trimmed off the big part of the envelope right there at the score line. And I'm just going to score that little bottom portion for the bottom tab. And then this is going to be that top flap. So we're basically piecing together this middle panel piece. And it's so easy to do. So you can see I have that little rounded edge. That's going to be our flap. We're going to put adhesive on this other piece and then just adhere it underneath the front of the big portion of the envelope. This isn't much different than adding the two side flaps, and this is a way to make the envelope, a regular slimline envelope, work with 8.5 by 11 cardstock. Because I know if you're like me, I don't really have a ton of 12 by 12 paper or cardstock anymore. I don't know that I have any cardstock, but I don't have a whole lot. And I really wanted to do a cardstock style, and I wanted to show how this would work with 8.5 by 11 paper. So I've adhered that front panel first, and let's go ahead and put our sides on our card and then do our stenciling just like we did on the first card, but this time we're going to stencil it all at once so that we don't have to go back and do extra work. So I'm making sure to score all of these really, really well. I do go over them a lot because I want it to have a good crease. And then just line that up with the score line. By scoring it really well, as you can definitely see how to place it together, and I feel like it works really well. And then of course I burnished that so that it's nice and secure. And let's do our other side really quickly before we get on to the stenciling. Now you could definitely go with a different stencil set if you want to. I went ahead and used the You Are My Favorite again because it was already out, and it's very user friendly for these larger sizes. So I just went ahead and opted to use it. I'm not using it as is on either card or envelope project today. It works really well for that. I've noticed with some of the 4x6 sets that they may not work quite as well on a larger scale project. So I really looked for something that didn't have an edge to it. I hope that makes sense. This is kind of an all-inclusive type of stencil. There's not going to be any straight edges through the leaves or anything. And so I liked that about this particular design. I know there's several others out there. I'm actually waiting on an order where I ordered a ton from the last Pinkfresh Studio Release. And I'm just waiting. It was part of my Simon order, and I'm just waiting for it to be in stock and get sent to me. And I definitely will be sharing some projects with that when it gets here. Now we are inking over the beautiful lavender cardstock. This is Simon Says Stamp lavender cardstock. I am really, really picky about my purples. And especially the lavender. This is my all-time favorite lavender cardstock, and it does ink up beautifully. The colors I'm using, I did use aquamarine for the greenery again. For the base color of my purple flowers, we are using soft lilac. And for the base color of the blue flowers, I love the blue on the purple, we're using the color Slumber, which I don't know if I've ever used Slumber before. I think this was the first time, or maybe the second. I love it. It's so, so pretty. My layering colors are lavender, that's the darker purple, and sapphire. Okay, just like before, let's put some adhesive on the inside of one of these back pieces, some adhesive on the bottom, and assemble our envelope. I will put a piece of this thicker adhesive up on the inside top flap of my envelope, and that is simply to just be removed after I place my card in the envelope. And we'll go ahead and do that for the smaller mini slimline as well. Oh, I love that purple envelope. Next, we are going to be taking the Slim Edgers dies from Pinkfresh Studio, and I'm going to use this really fun one here that's kind of got that Art Deco-y feel to it. And we're going to die cut some of the lavender cardstock to make this slim strip that goes through the center of our slimline card. The focal point of this card is the large die cut greeting, which I'll share in a minute, which I am just in love with because I'm using my favorite new holographic cardstock of all time. But that's going to be the focal point. Our stenciling is going to be pretty in the background. We'll stamp a little bit, all that good stuff, but it's going to be, the focal point is the greeting. But this decorative edge, oh my goodness, adds so much. I got this die set a while ago. I mean, I've had it a few months and I've never used it, and I don't know why. I love it. You get 4 different edgers and they are all so pretty. So definitely fantastic if you're a fan of the slimline style cards. Let's go ahead and take the You Are My Favorite stencils again, and I'm gonna speed it up because we are just doing the same thing that we have done for the envelopes and for the first card, with one exception. We are going to be adding some stenciling over there on the right side of the card. So this is kind of coming up from the bottom left and then coming down from the top right. I could have stenciled this like right through the center of the card, but just kind of visually, I liked this better. By coming from the bottom and coming from the top, it grounds the design so much. I don't know, just visually, I think it looks really, really nice. I'm going to do all of my flowers first, and then we'll go in and do the pretty greenery with that great aquamarine, which over the colorful cardstock really does look green. I love that. Okay, let's grab our slimline card base. You can see it's going to have a nice white border up at the top and the bottom. Oh, that little diamond up at the top and bottom I think is so cute as well. That little detail, and then the notched corners, just so elegant looking and so finished and polished. So I played around with different sentiments from this Pinkfresh Studio Phrase Builder Happy set, and I ultimately decided on Happy Birthday. And yes, I used some of this awesome new Simon Says Stamp holographic rainbow cardstock. Oh my goodness, you guys, I love, love, love how it turns out. I love how the holographic cardstock looks against the lavender. I specifically die cut my sentiments from the kind of pinky purple area of that cardstock, and it really matches so nice. So before I adhere any of that, let's go ahead and stamp a little greeting. This is from the You Are My Favorite stamp set. So it's a stamp set that coordinates with the stencils that we used. We're just going to stamp Love You Friend with the sapphire Pinkfresh Studio ink, and then from the Phrase Builder Happy Dies, I actually die cut each word 3 times. Once from holographic cardstock, twice from regular lavender cardstock, and then the shadow is die cut from vellum. Quite honestly, this was probably the most time-consuming part of this project, just adhering these one on top of another, but that little bit of dimension adds so much to our sentiment here and looks really, really amazing. I picked the lavender cardstock to build it up so that you, from the side, don't see that white edge. I really wanted it to be that pretty lavender. Just a little hint there for you. If you want your dimensional die cut to kind of blend in to the background you're using, just use that same color of cardstock for your different layers back behind whatever you're using on the top, which in this case is the rainbow holographic. We're going to glue those down. The vellum does kind of help bring it from the background. It's very, very subtle. I did not want a white outline here. I probably could have gone without, but I do like that little vellum shadow around the letters. We're going to finish our panel with, again, some of these great little hint of mint hearts, one down below our stamped sentiment, and then 2 kind of up here at the tail end of the letter Y in birthday. The final thing we're going to do is adhere this to our white slimline card base. It measures 8.5 inches wide. It's just a little bit narrower so that you have that decorative edge along the top and the bottom, which shows the white of the card base below. I'm using a nice strong adhesive. I mentioned it earlier. I used this glue glider adhesive, tape runner, and then we're just going to glue that down. And there is the matching envelope. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this slimline and mini slimline envelopes essential die tutorial featuring brand new Pinkfresh Studio dies from the May 2021 release. The supplies I used to create my cards and envelopes are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Pinkfresh Studio products that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.